our next guest is Representative, I just lost my place, I'm sorry, Congressman Michael Burgess, a member of the House Energy and Commerce Committee, which heard testimony this week from Energy Secretary Steven Chu about the failure of Solyndra, a solar energy company which received stimulus loans from the Obama administration. The Solyndra scandal obviously much in the headlines and, adding a lot of fodder to those headlines with Steven Chu's testimony last week. Congressman Burgess, first of all, welcome to the program. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, good morning. How are you?
I'm doing fine. Tell us what we learned from Secretary Chu last week.
Well, what we learned was the smartest man in Washington, D.C. had things going on around him that he didn't know, but clearly he should have known. It's a mystery on some of these things, why he could have been insulated from some of the decisions, or how he could have been insulated from some of even the feedback from lower level staffers at the Department of Energy who were talking about this stuff freely in emails about being jammed by the White House or jammed by the Office of Management of the Budget, and he didn't feel any of that pressure. But he told us that he was under no pressure to approve the loan, that he didn't know who the venture capitalist was that was a major donor bundler for the Obama campaign, and he didn't know that it would be wrong to subordinate taxpayer debt, even though it was clearly against the law when the loan originated. He thought it might be okay when refinancing to go ahead and subordinate the taxpayer loan. Again, all of this stuff coming from arguably the smartest man in Washington, D.C. So it did strain credulity listening to some of this tortured testimony that he was giving.
It should, and it's always struck me that Secretary Chu, he was a scientist, really, in a lot of ways before he got involved in politics. Like you said, the smartest man in Washington. So just to put some of that into context, do you think a lot of it is that Mr. Chu just is not a political animal and didn't realize that some of these things are going on around him?
I do think that's part of it, and that's what's so hard to watch about this, and what's so sad, because, again, legitimate smart guy, Nobel Prize laureate back when the Nobel Prize meant something, and he's obviously had spent a long time being coached about what story he was going to tell and how he was going to tell it. The political operatives in the White House, he's no match for the folks who, especially the folks who were around the president in the first 2 years of his term. The Rahm Emanuel crowd is what I call them. There was just no way that he could play on the same field with those folks.
Do you feel, some are suggesting that maybe Secretary Chu is being made the fall guy for Solyndra? Do you get that impression?
Yes, I think that is. And, this is actually a very important week for him, because if you're going to remove someone from a cabinet position, what better time to do it than late in the day on Friday after Thanksgiving, when everyone's focus is on other things. Solyndra, perhaps one of the things also that has gotten in the way of this story is there's been so much else going on, super committee in Syria, and there's just a presidential election. There's a lot of stuff competing for news space, and Solyndra really has kind of moved to the back burner on a lot of days on the news stories. Well, yeah, if you're going to get rid of a cabinet secretary over a problem with perhaps a scandal within the cabinet office, what better time to do it than the Friday after Thanksgiving?
Do you think he should be replaced, or I guess resign?
Well, when I talked with the secretary on the record in committee, this was my concern. He subordinated taxpayer debt, recognizing that it was wrong to do that with the initiation of the loan, but relying on a very tortured legal opinion that wasn't even a prepared legal memo from the Department of Justice. It was an email from one of the lower-level lawyers, and he said, aha, here's the justification for doing this. But that's clearly wrong. Everybody's learned that as their mother's knee. This was not a stretch. And I believe he should, number one, apologize to the American people for having made such a decision, and number two, taken that information to his boss, the President of the United States, and say, look, I've apparently made a very bad mistake in judgment here, and I need for you to accept my resignation. I thought that's what the logical thing for him to do, but apparently not. He was there stonewalling in the committee and had been obviously well prepared to give non-responsive responses to a lot of very complicated questions, and so far silence out of the White House about their take on his performance in front of the committee last week. So we'll see.
And he refused to apologize too, right?
Correct. He said it is regrettable that money was lost. Well, that's the old mistakes were made, but it's not a satisfactory answer. And again, it's what's so painful. I mean, this is a smart guy, and he knows right from wrong. And it's just, again, it's almost tragic to watch this thing play out and how he has been damaged by the relentless political machine that has been in the White House for the past couple of years.
That goes to my next point. Would it be a mistake to focus on Secretary Chu too much? I mean, at this point, the Obama administration is putting him out in front, but it seems from everything I've learned that the problem is within the White House itself. Solyndra doesn't begin and end with Secretary Chu. He may have been the cabinet member overseeing it, but the problem, it seems to me, is deeper within the administration.
Yeah, absolutely, and he made the decisions that he made because of pressure he got from the White House. I mean, that's what's obvious in all of these exchanges that we had the other day. So you have people like Carol Browner, you have people like Valerie Jarrett, and even Rahm Emanuel himself and his chief of staff. These are the people who were putting the pressure on the energy secretary because, in their words, the words from a mid-level staffer from the Department of Energy, this was a litmus test. This solar project, this solar loan, and that's why they were in such a rush to get it approved. They had a photo op already planned. They needed the loan guarantee to happen because they'd already put out the press release. So they let the politics get ahead of the science on this, and it's hurt them very badly.
Do you? Is it clear at this point, because that's one thing we've heard, is that a majority of these green energy stimulus loans went to people who were connected with the Obama campaign in terms of giving money. Is that the correct impression that America should be taken away from this?
Well, obviously that's the impression that you're left with when looking at the bundlers who were the venture capitalists for the Solyndra loan project. And 2 out of the 3 first approvals resulted in financial failures, Solyndra and Beacon in Massachusetts. But I think that this is the reason why the committee subpoenaed the White House documents and why I think the White House is reluctant to turn those things over, because it would show that trail did exist. But right now it's an unproven theory, and the White House has been successful so far in shielding any sort of internal documents that might shed more light on that. But
Congressman, Congressman, we appreciate your time this morning. Congressman Michael Burgess talking about the Solyndra scandal. He and the House Energy Committee continuing to get to the bottom of it. More straight ahead on the Scott Hennon Show. I'm Rob Port, sitting in. Don't go away.